So that's the other way that poison ivy can move around your body. And then the third way that poison ivy can continue to plague you is if it's on an inanimate object. So in my case, because it was on the armrest in my car, I might have been continuing to expose myself to it, and it wouldn't go away. Poison ivy is not going to go away on an inanimate object unless you wash it with soap and water, and that's enough. You don't need anything stronger than that on an inanimate object. I also want to interject that if you know that you touched poison ivy, you can wash your body with soap and water in the first few minutes and either get rid of all of it or certainly diminish its effect on you. So it is helpful to know that if you did get exposed, to wash with soap and water. Okay, but inanimate objects, let's talk about that for a second. You could get poison ivy on anything. It could be on your gardening tools, on your shoes, on the laces of your shoes. Different things that you touch consistently have no idea have urushiol on them. Oh, another thing is your pet. If your pet was traipsing through a poison ivy bush, it can get the urushiol on its fur, and then every time you pet it and then touch yourself, you're transferring it onto you. So that's another common way that we pick up poison ivy without being directly exposed to it. This is kind of an indirect exposure, but it can be just as serious. So again, in my case, I think I was exposed to it repeatedly because of the contact in my car, and because that was so strong and the reaction was so deep on my arm, that it became systemic and I was breaking out all over the place. So this is typically what happens. And again, I also believe that I was contagious and told people don't touch me or don't come near me, whatever. And that was absolutely not true. All right, so let's assume that you did get poison ivy. You're suffering with it right now. What do you do about it? Again, depending on the severity, you can treat it a couple different ways. The most logical thing that people do is they treat it with a surface analgesic, and that can be anything. That could be what we typically know as calamine lotion, right? That has a soothing effect. Any kind of hydrocortisone creams, anything over the counter that diminishes the nerve response on the surface can be helpful. But all that's helpful in doing is stopping the itch temporarily. So whether you go with something all natural, you could go with any homeopathic remedies tend to work. Oatmeal bath works. Oatmeal in general is very soothing. There's some over-the-counter. Aveeno makes something with oatmeal in it that's soothing. You can go down that road and use all natural. I used Burt's Bees Poison Ivy Relief, and that was great. I really I benefited from that. But again, it's temporary. So I would really be plagued by the itches in my sleep, where I would dream that it was okay to scratch the itch, and I would go ahead and just tear at my arm. Bad idea. Not bad because you're going to spread it around, as I already said, but bad because we have any number of bacteria on our hands and under our fingernails that when you're scratching in that way, you can spread to the, to the poison ivy area, which is already inflamed skin, and create an infection. That's all. So what can you do? There are a couple things you can do to help you with poison ivy. I mean, you can go see a doctor, and a doctor will typically give you a prescription topical ointment, just a stronger version of what you would get in the drugstore, basically. And again, this is just quelling the symptoms, stopping the itch a little bit temporarily. Sometimes a doctor will also give you a shot, a steroid shot, cortisone, which, well, it could be a shot or it could be orally. But sometimes you don't want to take a steroid. I didn't want to take a steroid. Certainly if you're pregnant and you get poison ivy, you don't want to take a steroid. So that leads me to this amazing product. And before I sound like an infomercial on this particular product, Zanfel, I just want to say that I'm promoting this because it's the only thing out there that works in this particular way, as I'm about to describe. Well, and because I believe in it. I mean, it really helped me, and they had a lot of great information about poison ivy. So I stand by them. I think this is, I'll tell you in a second how it works and why it's so effective. You can get this in almost any drugstore. The thing is, unlike, you know, buying a Vino product or something that costs under $10, this retails for 40 bucks. So it's not cheap, but it works. What they managed to do with this product is create this cream. It's like a paste. You put it on when your hands are wet. And let's say in my case, I had this on my forearm. You put on a very specific amount. It's not like you just squeeze out any random amount. They give you a little measuring tool to squeeze out 1.5 inches onto wet hands. You rub it together, you create a paste. What you have in your hands is a full dosage for an amount of poison ivy that's roughly equal to the surface area of an adult face. Okay, so you take that cream on your hands and you rub it on the poison ivy for up to 3 minutes until the itch abates. This feels amazing because for the first time, if you have, if you've resisted scratching your poison ivy, you're kind of allowed to sort of like, you're not really itching it, but you're touching it in a way that's incredibly soothing. It just feels amazing to use. So you're putting this cream on you. It's got little granules in it, so it like kind of helps, it's just like this incredible sensation of like quelling your itch. So you use the cream on you, and what it does, this isn't just about stopping the itch. What it does is it actually bonds with the urushiol that's still in your skin, and it pulls it out of you, takes the urushiol away from you. It kind of locks it into its own sort of capsule, and then you can simply wash it away. For severe cases like I had, I did have to use it more than once. But if you have sort of a light reaction to poison ivy, you might just have to use it once and you're good to go. So 1 tube, which is about 15 applications for $40, is well worth it. Otherwise, you might be looking at a trip to the doctor, which is not going to do anything better than I just described because it's not going to remove the urushiol from your skin. Doctor is going to give you a topical or, like I said, a steroid. So this stuff is great. It really, it washes the poison from your skin. You can use it repeatedly. It's safe for children. It's safe for all parts of your body. It's safe for pregnant and nursing women. And it really works. So what more can you say about that? I wanted to talk a little bit about the poison ivy leaf, or the plant itself. I was surprised to learn that, because I'm in the East Coast here, we actually don't have poison oak and poison sumac. I think we only have poison ivy here, and it does come in these different varieties. I'm going to show you. This is Eastern poison ivy. So that to me doesn't look like the typical kind of red shiny leaves like I've seen before. This almost looks like an innocuous ivy. One thing that they always want you to remember with these poison plants is the little saying, leaves of 3, let it be. Which works most of the time. I mean, the clusters that I saw were, had that distinct, 3-leaf formation. But poison ivy is showing up more and more not in that formation. We'll see it in clumps of 5 and 7 and so forth. And poison sumac, I think, doesn't look like that at all. This is what Western poison ivy looks like, in case you're watching this on YouTube and you're out west. This is poison sumac. Can you see that? Here's poison oak. Looks a lot like an oak leaf. Yeah, this is a very unprofessional way of showing you this. What that was? Oh, yeah, that was Eastern poison oak, and then there's Western poison oak. Eastern poison oak is in the southeast, and poison sumac, it likes swampy areas like Florida. I read in some of my literature that